Things they never showed you in social work. Let's talk about it. So, the first one, poverty is a problem and it creates a lot of safeguarding issues, yeah? But the problem is that there's going to be a number of poverty-based issues that you cannot resolve. You're going to do your best, but you're dealing with a number of issues, like some parents, some families, they actually genuinely don't have enough money, and there are some families they just won't be able to manage the money they have. So I think that, some of these poverty-based issues, some of these families, they sit on the line when it comes to significant harm, significant impact, and that's where you get to Section 47, where do we need to take more action around the parents' rights, because the parents can't manage money or are not coping in poverty. There are situations that arise, not many, but they do arise where, the state of the home and the children's well-being, hygiene, home upkeep, it's all part of poverty mindset, feeling low, feeling down. I think things are getting worse because of social media, because so many people are out there fronting like that they're doing so well, and it makes people feel low. So I think social media is really messing with people's minds, and so anxiety and depression is just on an increase in tandem with the rise in the use of social media, Instagram being a killer, So poverty is a bit more of a complex issue, because you're dealing with that combined with depression. And people who are struggling with anxiety and or depression, what they'll do sometimes is they'll receive their benefits and try to get out of that. Let's say they're on universal credit, call it benefits because you can tell how old I am. They will receive their universal credit and then spend money to gratify themselves, and that F's up their whole month. And then they're struggling. Sometimes when you get to conference, a child protection conference, and someone will, or it might be mentioned in the assessment, financially struggling, you're like, why? Let's explore that, and you'll find that they could be like doing a lot of takeouts, buying clothes on payday. And so poverty is just a really complex thing, and it's not to look down on any of the parents who are going through that, it's not that, it's just to understand it. And so when you're working with the family, you really want to change their situation, but how do you do that? That's how complex poverty is. That's one of the things that they don't tell you. Another thing that might not be mentioned so much in your training, is you only find out on the job, is you can only find out on the job is how much of the weight of the pressure of working with, how can I put it? The emotional weight that you carry. It can crush, There's going to be, for me, generally, I can handle certain things quite a lot. Like when I see things, I don't crumble. But the reason why I say that is because the pressure hits me differently. The pressure for me is the amount of work that has to be done. That's the pressure. But sometimes some of us will see things. You'll see neglect that scares you. That really does scare you. You'll be called out to homes and you'll just see injuries, neglect, and you might go home and think, I can't do this job. I can't take seeing that day in, day out. And that's it, social workers carry that. We internalize all of that stuff. And if you have a family, and you've got to also, for those of us who have families that we have to attend to when we get home, what do you do? Where do you park that? Can you compartmentalize the emotional pressure of seeing that? Some of us can, some of us struggle with it. But the truth is that if you push through, you become more resilient. That is a fact. But some of us have to count the cost of how much we want to do that. do I really want to become more resilient? But yeah, and then obviously I mentioned in a previous video, like, you go to bed at night and the family's on your head. The family is in your head, on your head constantly, you know. And what do? As many nights, in fact the majority of nights, someone's in my head. Can I sleep? The children are looking at me. My daughter just told me to come home right now. She goes, where are you? Come home right now. It's a weekend, by the way. She goes, come home right now, I'm cooking breakfast. She's worried about me, innit? So she should be. Because she can see that there's a weight on my mind. But the thing is, I can go quite long before the cracks start to show, so it's not good. Here's another one actually I thought I'd mention. When you know they're not telling the truth, but you can't prove it. And you're like I've worked with families where if I walk away from this family and this continues, someone's really going to get hurt. But sometimes a family falls into a threshold gap where we can't prove it, but we know something's happening. But without evidence, what can you do? And you're worried that children, once we walk out the door, children will be coached. Happens all the time. I was just talking to a colleague this week, and we're convinced that a child is being coached, but we can't prove it. And there's so much, we call it disguised compliance, even just refusal as well. And it is frustrating because you know that the abuse is not going to stop. The parent, the dad, is not going to stop doing what he's doing. The mum is not going to stop doing what she's doing. This is frustrating because they're not going to stop. Like, some families they have no intention to stop being negligent, to stop being abusive. And they will do what it takes to maintain that. And sometimes the type of impact, it doesn't meet threshold for us to do anymore, but you know, if it carries on, that child is doomed. And so that conflict is rough. And if a parent pushes hard enough, sometimes they can legally just push you away. So that's one of the most frustrating things for me in this job. Bear in mind that it's not many families that I've found that. Some families have done that with me and I've managed to kind of turn it around. I'll throw another one in as well. Sometimes cases escalate because your colleague doesn't know how to work with conflict. And so, I just think poor communication. I've written about this in my audiobook as well. Well, it's a book and audiobook. It's coming out soon. And some families, once there's a change in social worker, they we can get somewhere. But that goes for all of us, by the way. We've all got gaps in our skill set, right? But a case can be going left or right, depending on how we approach. I've had quite a few where it's just, I think, if you make sure your family knows that they're being heard, you make sure. Just make sure that they know they're being heard. Even if there's disagreement, a lot of the time I found that they'll work with you, you know what I mean? But I do think social workers who are humans as well could be triggered. And we can present like we are helping, but we're not. You can document, I've tried this, I've tried that, but you really haven't from a good place. And that's detected, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I believe cases can escalate because we aren't putting in the real work of how can I reflect, critical self-reflection and say, how can I break the ice? How can I jump this hurdle before this gets out of control? I believe that. So, can I encourage you to think about that, because while some things can be low level, children can be exposed to a number of things from their families because of us triggering that process, it's not all our fault, but just triggering that process. And I would encourage you to kind of avoid that. Yeah, and that's, you know, I'm always going to hold social work to account, and I'm going to hold parents to account. I'm going to hold everyone to account. That's what I do. Anyway, did that help? Let me know.